We're in a short series, Introduction to Basic Concepts on the gift of self to others in preparation for going through the living flame of love. And it's like a language class, learning to speak another language. John of the Cross is learning using terms and has concepts on his map of knowledge that have been removed from our map of knowledge. So he thinks a certain way, and it's not always expressed. And so that's what we're trying to do, put on your map of knowledge these little concepts, little snippets. And unfortunately right now you have to listen to several tapes. We'll try to do one all together and upload it to a website we don't have and give that to you. But blockers, we talked about the pan blocking your progression of understanding, your progression of love, knowledge, the light, the illumination. We talked about the pan is unable to block love. Ignorance is unable to block love. Again, ignorance is unable to block love. But in this immaterial world, in your soul, there are a couple of experiences that is almost universal. The experience of dryness and the experience of distractions. And again, this is not my point of view. I am trying to convey to you the consensus of the Carmelite order, particularly that of the Discalced Carmelite order, from the point of view of John of the Cross, moving up to the point of view of the Trinity. So the Trinity is trying to penetrate and transform your intellect through approximate means of faith, divinize your intellect, divinize your will. And you're praying, which is a human operation. And as you pray or you draw close to God, in your intellect, it will be distractions, flight of ideas, lots going on there. That's common. Sometimes won't happen until you sit down and you begin to think about a bag of potato chips. You think about this or that. Or, and it's called spilt gold, Satan can do intervening thoughts and give you great illuminations because he wants to take you away from, in a higher forms of prayer, he wants to break that. He can't see what's going on. We'll talk about that later on. That's more into contemplation. But right now, introductory concepts of what's happening when you have dryness. The dryness is in the will. When you begin to you must be faithful to your half hour of prayer or hour of prayer, what you set aside. The friars are to do a morning and evening hour of prayer. That's how they love their neighbor. If they are dry, so what? You have to be faithful. You keep the rule. That dryness in your will, the remedy is to offer that time to God. You get the time, you give Him the intent, but it may not be like you want it. It may not be time that is on fire. It may not be illuminating. That's in your will. You still go to your prayer. You still be faithful. So fidelity is the answer to the dryness in the will. In the intellect, the discursion you have in your prayer, and you're trying to think about God, and all these other thoughts they're called distractions. Again, you offer up your time. You commit to a certain length of time in your prayer. And if you're in Carmel and you're a friar or nun, you're doing probably an hour in the morning and an hour at night. You commit to that. And as you draw close to that, remember that touch? You draw close to that immaterial touch, that loving, and that knowing, the flame, the light. God will dry out that intellect so there will be less disturbances, less distractions. But you don't abandon prayer. And remember, if you want to increase your progression rapidly, do it with love. Patience is the number one virtue. Remember, it's the attribute, I think, in Corinthians by Paul. Love is patient and kind, willing to endure all things. So if you want to rapidly dry out that soul, be patient. Do an act of kindness to an enemy or someone. Remember the little flower who used to have those rosary beads clicking? It drew her nuts. The woman in front of her was a nun and would click her rosary beads or click her teeth. And she just put up with it. She endured it. Again, dryness in the will, normal. Persevere. You will pass through that. You're falling in love with God. God is pursuing you. You're going to have some, you will be tested. You will have some contraries. God is contrary to creation, and when He touches that, there's going to be dryness. When your intellect and your will are touched by God, they're like dry leather, and He's trying to massage them and soften them. You must endure dryness and distractions. Get down, and how John the Cross says also, love is the first attribute. Patience, when love, the virtue of love, increase your virtues, and if you have to pick on one, pick patience. You also want to draw closer to God. If there are other ways to draw closer to God, when you were troubled, he talks about this troubling, when the soul is troubled. Sometimes that means you can run to prayer, but if you have dryness and distractions, go in front of the Eucharist. Go to the chapel. Go close to the Bible. Whatever it is that allows you to increase, you'll increase as you draw closer to God. And this will change as you progress through the spiritual life. Draw closer to God when you're troubled. Draw closer to God when you're troubled. Okay? That's to encourage you as we get into the next level in the next tape.